Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this balaclava. It's so cozy and so perfect for the still cold days up ahead because apparently there's more weeks of winter, unfortunately. I made this in a day. It's pretty quick to work up, so it's not too late to crochet your balaclava for the winter if you're watching this right when I post it. It's very beginner friendly. I'll walk you through all the stitches, so let's get into it. So first, here's all of the supplies that you will need. I am using Bernat Fluffy yarn. I love this yarn. I think it's so soft and fun to use, and I'm using the cream and vivid pink colors. You can use any yarn you would like because this is going to be a made to measure pattern, but I do love the fluffy yarn. And I'm using an 8mm crochet hook. This works it up very fast. I love using larger crochet hooks and it works well with this yarn. Some yarn scissors, and I recommend a yarn needle to sew them together. You can also sew them together using a slip stitch if you prefer to sew the squares together that way, but I'm going to use a yarn needle and I'll show you how I use the yarn needle to do a mattress stitch. So yeah, let's jump into the tutorial. So the first thing we're going to be doing is making 8 of these granny squares, and when using an 8mm crochet hook I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of each, but I'm going to show you the measurements so that if you're using a smaller crochet hook or a bigger one and you need to do more or less rows, you can still have or at least know what size mine were and kind of work off of that. So mine are 7 inches. Each side is 7 inches. So it took me 6 rows to get 7 inches. If you want a bigger balaclava, you can go for 9 or 10 inches. If you want it smaller, 6 or 5 or whatever you want to do. But just for a basis, mine are 7 inches, 6 rows with an 8mm crochet hook. And I will show you now how I crochet a classic granny square, or also how I change colors. If you would like to change colors, you don't have to. But let's jump into a tutorial for the granny square itself. So we're going to start with a magic ring, and to do this, it's super simple. Just wrap your yarn around your finger twice, pull this yarn over that loop, then take this now back loop and pull it all the way over your finger, and place that around your hook, flip it upside down like this, and we're just going to yarn over and pull through the loop. And now we're going to chain 3. So yarn over, pull through this loop. That's 1, 2, 3. And this chain 3 is the start of our first round, and it also counts as our first double crochet. So now we're going to do 2 more double crochets into the magic ring. So yarn over, insert your hook into the ring, yarn over, pull through the ring, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the second 2 loops. And we're going to do that again. And so we've done 2 double crochets, but since this counts as 1 as well, we have 3 technically. So we're going to keep working clusters of 3. So chain 1 in between each cluster. So we're going to chain 1, and now we're going to do 3 more double crochets into the ring. 1, 2, 3. So there's our second cluster of 3, and we're going to work 4 in total. So we've just got 2 more. So chain 1, 3 more double crochets, and 1 more cluster of 3. So we're going to chain 1 and do 3 more double crochets. And now I like to go ahead and pull my circle closed. So pull your circle closed. And now we're going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the top of our starting chain 3. So find that top chain 1, 2, 3 and insert your hook. And I like to insert into both the front and back loops of the chain. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on our hook. And that is our first round of our granny square. So now, to start our next one, we're going to chain 3. And that is once again going to count as our first double crochet. So now we're going to do 2 more double crochets into this space at the base of our starting chain 3. So insert your hook into that space at the base of the chain 3. And we're going to do 1, 2. So now it's a cluster of 3 because we're counting that chain 3 as our first double crochet. And now I only like to chain 1 in between clusters of 3 that are in the corners. So we're going to hop to the next corner. This one is not a corner technically, this hop to the next one, so I'm not going to chain 1. I'm just going to work another cluster of 3 into the next space. So 1, 2, 3, and since this is a corner, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do 3 more clusters in this same space. 3 more double crochets, 1 more cluster. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to hop on over to the next space. So do a cluster of 3 double crochets in the next space. Chain 1 and 3 more in the same space. And now we're hopping on over to our next space. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets. Chain 1, 3 more double crochets in the same space. And now we're back at the space we started in, and we still need to do 3 more double crochets to complete that corner. So we're going to hop over to this space, and we're going to do a cluster of 3 double crochets. And now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a slip stitch in the top of that starting chain 3, just like how we ended the last round. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and this is where I'm going to change colors. You can just chain 3 and start the same way we started last time, where you work into the base of that. If you don't want to switch colors, if you do, I'm going to show you how I like to switch colors. So I'm just going to cut my yarn and pull this through all the way and pull that nice and tight. And now I like to start in the opposite side when I change colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and insert my hook just into this space on the opposite side. And I'm going to grab my next color. I'm going to make a slip knot. So to make a slip knot, I just cross my yarn like this and pull that loop through. And place that on your hook. And now pull that through that space. And now we're going to do our chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And that counts as our first double crochet. And now we're going to do 2 more double crochets into this space. So 1, 2, and that's our first cluster of 3. And now we're going to go into this space right here, and we're going to do another cluster of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and this is not a turning stitch, so we're going to hop to the next one and do our turning. So we're going to do a cluster of 3 double crochets in this next space. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and do 3 more double crochets in this same space. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna basically continue this all the way around. You're gonna do your cluster of 3 in here, then here you're gonna do cluster of 3, chain 1, another cluster of 3 in the same space, 1 cluster of 3 in this one, cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3, cluster of 3 in this one, and then I will show you what to do at the end. So just keep working around and I'll show you what to do when we get back where we started. Okay, so now we're back where we started, and we're gonna end it just like we ended the last row. We're gonna do another cluster of 3 in this last space. And then chain 1 and slip stitch into the top of that starting chain 3. And the rest of the granny square is pretty repetitive. So to start your next row, you're going to chain 3, do 2 double crochets in the space at the bottom of your chain, and then you're going to do cluster of 3, turning stitch, which is cluster 3, chain 1, another cluster 3 in there, cluster 3, turning stitch, and you're going to always end it the same way, doing your cluster 3, chain 1, slip stitch in the top of the chain 3. And I am changing my color every 2 rows. You can change the color whenever you would like, and not at all, and just continue doing rows until you have, if you were making the same size balaclava as me, until your granny square is 7 inches on each side. But if you want to make it smaller or bigger, just keep measuring your square as you're making your rows. And once you've made 8 of them, I'll meet you in the next clip to show you how we're going to join them together. So once you've made all 8 of your squares, it is now time to start sewing them together. So grab your yarn needle, or you can use slip stitches if you prefer to sew your squares together like that. And I like to sew them together using a mattress stitch. So I'll show you all the stitch that I use, but you can really use whatever stitch you prefer to sew granny squares together. So I'm going to start by taking 2 of each of these color palettes that I made, and I'm going to line them up like every other one, and making sure that the side that has my tail is facing up. I'm going to sew them all together so the seam is on this side, and so are our tails, and that way this side you won't really see the seam. So we're going to start with the first 4, and how I do a mattress stitch. Let's focus on 2 at a time. I start in a corner stitch and I go through the back loop only. And if you're doing slip stitches, it might look nice to just go through the back loop only too. So I go up through that back loop and I pull through about like 3 times the distance of the granny square, so like that much yarn, to make sure I have enough. And then I find the same stitch on the other granny square, so this one is my corner stitch, and I go up through that back loop. And you do that all the way down. So I'm going to find the next stitch, and I'm going to go through the back loop on this granny square, find that same next stitch on the other granny square. Sometimes I have to turn it around a little bit. I go up through that stitch, and that's how you do a mattress stitch. So I'm just going to go up to the top, and I'm just going to sew these first 4 together with mattress stitches. So I'll show you at the end of the mattress stitch how I weave that end in, and then you'll just sew all 4 together. So once I've gone through the corner stitches of the top of the square, now I'm just going to weave both of my ends back in. So just do this however you like to weave your ends in. And at some point when I'm weaving them in, I like to go through one twice, and the second time I go through, I like to pull it through to make a little knot to make sure that is not going to come undone. So I've got my little knot right there, and then I just weave it in a couple of more times to be super secure, and then I'll just cut my yarn. I'm going to cut my yarn, and then I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. And now you're just going to do that same thing to join all 4 squares together in that same way, just down this line. So you'll do your mattress stitch or whatever stitch you prefer, and once you've done all of those, I'll show you what you're going to do next. So once you've sewed all 4 together, we're going to kind of fold it in like this, but we don't want to sew on this side, we want to sew with this side up. So fold it in like this, and now we're going to do a mattress stitch to connect these two to make it a ring. So you're going to do the exact same thing you did before with these 2 squares. So once you have attached that square, you basically have like the neck of the balaclava. This could work as a neck warmer by itself. So now choose which one you want to be the front of it, the opening for your face. I want mine to be one that's this color. So I am now going to take my next 3 granny squares, and I'm going to connect them on the top of each of them except for the one that I want to be where my face is. So I'll attach them like this and just do my mattress stitch, and I'm not going to cut my yarn and end it. I'm going to put this one here, and I'm going to keep that same yarn and keep it going. So I'll go into this turning stitch and this turning stitch, and I'm going to keep it going. And then the 3rd granny square right here, I'll sew this one right there, and it'll go all the way, and then I'll weave it back in on both ends. So I hope that makes sense. It's pretty much what you've just been doing, but you're sewing up all 3. So once you've stitched these 3 to these 3, now we're just going to sew them together right here. So this is it kind of as like the neck warmer thing. We just want to connect in the back. So I'm going to do my mattress stitch up here till I get to this corner stitch and try to kind of close up all up the way up to there, and then do the same thing over there. Okay, so once you've sewed up all those sides, now we just need to add the top granny square. The way we're going to do it is I'm going to start on the far left, and I'm going to stitch up here, and then it's going to kind of pivot, and I'm going to stitch here, and then it's going to kind of pivot, and I'm going to stitch down here, and I'm going to do this all in one. So it's kind of like when we went across, but instead it's like we're making a box, kind of. And the balaclava has been formed. So now I'm going to add single crochets all around this rim and then all around the bottom. So to do that, I'm just going to choose a spot to start my single crochets. Let's start right here. It doesn't really matter where you start. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that stitch, and I want to do mine in pink. So grab the color you want to do yours with and do a slip knot. So twist your yarn, pull it through, place it on your hook, pull that through, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do a single crochet in the first stitch. And as I do, I'm going to weave this end in. So I'm going to keep that end under everything I'm doing. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on your hook. And that is how you do a single crochet. And we're going to do that in every stitch, just going all the way around until we're back to this one where we started. So insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over, pull through these 2. Once you've gone all the way around and you're back where you started, we're just going to do a slip stitch into that very first single crochet. So don't confuse it with the chain 1. Find that first actual single crochet, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook, and now I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to pull that loop all the way through. And now I'm going to do that same thing but going all the way around the bottom. And once you've gone all the way around this one, I already did it, but you do your slip stitch into the first single crochet, cut your yarn, pull it through, and now all you have left to do is weave in the ends. I like to take a smaller crochet hook. This one may be too small, but let's try it. And I don't know why I prefer this over a yarn needle, but I just do. And I'm just gonna pull that end through a few stitches, just like that. And I keep pulling it the center of this granny square tight to make sure it's not gonna come undone. And I'm gonna go through another one, and pretty early on I'm gonna tie a knot because I get really nervous that my granny squares are gonna come undone at the magic ring. So I'm just gonna take it through this one again, but I'm gonna leave like this loop and pull a knot through. And then I'm just gonna weave it through a few more times. So I tend to do those for the magic ring ones with a knot, but up here I'm just gonna weave this in and not really worry about a knot because it's pretty secure. It just really needs to be woven in. So that's how I like to weave in my ends. So that's the final step of making your balaclava. And that's it! I hope you enjoy your balaclava and I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe if you have not already. I have lots more tutorials on my channel as well as crochet vlogs that you could maybe watch while you crochet. Yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye!